All right. We are now live with the Beyond Balance podcast. I am so excited to have Miss Cynthia Stant with me today. It's so interesting, social media is interesting, isn't it? And Cynthia has popped up in my social media feed over the last couple of years. We have a lot of common friends. When we started looking at, hey, Izzy, can you please let Larry out of the bedroom? This is what happens in the middle of a podcast when it's spring break.
Always.
I'm just telling you, okay? And so he's like sitting there in the bedroom barking. So here's the thing. When you have this gravity, when you see somebody online, there are two different ways you can look at it. You can be like, look at her, and be a little bit judgy and a little bit envious, her pretty blonde hair and her pretty photos, right? Or you can be like, I need to know this girl. I need to know what she does. I need to know how to support her. I need to know how she can support me. I need to know everything about her, right? And so I choose always the latter, and that has gained me so many friends over the years. And so Cynthia, I just want you to share. So first of all, she's got a killer podcast. You got to go check it out. Okay. Inner Feminine Beast. She's going to talk a little bit today about her story and how she released her inner feminine beast. And I just am so grateful to have her here to share her story with you, because I think it'll really impact you and it'll impact your heart. So thank you so much for being here with me, Cynthia, today.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm going to speak to that too. I definitely believe in the power of proximity. Everything I have in my company is because of, I believe in social media, like actually connecting with people.
Right.
And I don't believe in coincidences. So I turn left and you're on Jen Stoney's podcast. I turn right, you're on my client Tara Andler's podcast. I look and you're at my best friend's event. And I'm like, who is this girl? And not just that, she's teaching sales, right? It's not like, oh, competition. It's like, let's be Spice Girls together because we're better together, right? I love it.
Yes.
So, I'm very excited to be, getting to know you as well. And I feel like this is a great friendship in the making. So thank you so much for having me today. I've heard nothing but wonderful, beautiful things about you. So excited to spend time.
That's so nice. And like, here's the deal, there's not a lot of women that really dig into sales, right? Like it tends to be a male dominated place, but women are better at it. Like, I'm just being honest. And they're also 92% of the buying power, right? Like they make 92% of the buying decisions. And so if you learn how to sell, you will never be without. And so Cynthia, like, can you just give people a little picture of your life and who you are and what you've created over the past few years?
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm not sure, obviously they're listening, but if you saw Christina, like I just geeked out for a second, like a little joygasm, like my face like does the biggest smile when you just say the word sales. And you and we had a connection call and I loved it about you. You're like, yeah, I was at the bar and I met this guy, he had a business. And next thing I know, I'm talking business. Like that's how I am with sales, because I truly am a woman who's obsessed. Like I know it sounds crazy, but I'm obsessed with sales. I am, because for me, sales is not spammy. It's not scammy. It's not sleazy.
No.
It's not all these terrible S words. To me, it truly is sexy. I think it is the most spiritual thing that you can possibly do. I think it is really the start of some of your clients' success, because it's about serving. It's about being a solution. If you want to use S words, those are the S words. And that's what I stand for. And so I really believe that, I have a purpose in my life and no one can experience that purpose unless there's some kind of commitment towards each other. And that's what sales is. It's really being able to share your God-given purpose. And so I do love sales. And for me, it's never been hard. It's come naturally, but I have everything I have in my life because I'm a woman who can sell and I've taught other women how to sell. So I love sales. So the story, you want the story?
I want the story.
Yeah,
I want the nitty gritty, girl.
I thought we were going to talk sales strategies. You want this hard stuff to talk about. All right.
I know.
Let's do it. It's funny because 5 years ago, I am not at all the same woman I am now at all. It can happen, and it can happen quickly when you choose to decide. And so this is kind of my story, and it's crazy when I think back of it, because this story really only takes a few years ago, but it feels like decades, and it's a weird thing, but it's a beautiful thing. So I'll do a quick version. There's a lot here, but really it kind of started in college, I think. Started in college because I am a woman who went to school. It's funny, I went to school for marketing with a minor in advertising at the University of Delaware. And even though I still feel pretty young, I had a flip phone in college, right? So all that marketing that I learned is like bullshit, because now my whole company's ran on social media, which didn't really even exist then.
Right.
So anyway, I went to school full time. I worked full time, and I remember a lot of my roommates and friends, they were like making a lot of money. And I'm like, what are you doing? They're like, we're serving tables. I'm like, oh, I'd like the Applebee's or something. They're like, no, you have to get into these high-end restaurants. I was like, I want to do
Yeah.
that. I want to do that. And they're like, well, good luck. Like, you need to do the Applebee's and all that before you get to the high-end restaurant. You just don't walk in there. There's one thing that I learned about myself pretty young is that when I want something, I will go get it. And there is many times throughout the story that you're going to hear that I have sold myself into a position that didn't exist. Right. And the way that you do that is make it a win-win-win. You always have to look for that. And so I remember I walked into this high-end restaurant. It was crazy because it was November, which is holiday season when everybody's going out, taking their clients, their families, it's very busy. And I said, I want to work here. They said, you have no experience. I said, look, I will be the cocktail server. I will just get in here and I will do the bitch work that nobody wants to do because I would get a tipped $1 here, $1 there. Just let me in. They said, you would do that? And they said, sure. I'm sure, being 6 foot tall, blonde hair, blue eyes kind of helped a little bit with that. And, I'll say true, but I did it. I went in and I just showed up. I smiled and I did the best I could and pretended every single second that I wasn't thinking in my head, I'm just going to spill something. Right. But they, turns out somebody got fired or left within like a week or so, and they needed to fill the spot. So they turned to me. And I think I was 21 years old working in a high-end restaurant. And, in my first week, I got the opportunity where every single night we're starting to make $300 a night. That's a lot of money for a 21-year-old, right? But it's also a lot of pressure. And this is a little tip. If you're looking to hire somebody in sales, one of the things that I've done and I recommend to my clients is go to people in restaurants. Because think about this. If you're at a high-end restaurant, like every single table, it could be up to $1,000+ per bill. You are multitasking. You are creating an experience. You are performing, you're serving, literally, like that's what sales is. And you're upselling. They're always looking for the upsell.
You're making me miss it, by the way. You're making me miss, like, I love that life. I love bartending. I love serving. It was so fun.
See, I knew we had that in common, but of course. I actually had a dream. Do you dream about it a lot? I still dream about it.
Sometimes.
That was like the funnest times of my life because I was working with all my best friends and making a ton of money. So what happened was I wanted more money, right? And I thought, how do I do this? I realized where all the margins were, and really was on the back of the menu where the wines and spirits were. So I decided to really study the wine. And of course, I just turned 21. So this is going to be fun. And, some of these bottles were really pricey, but I would save and I would go to the store and I would buy that and I would try it and I would learn the tasting notes. And I would ask my manager, can I have a print off of the sheets that, the distributor leaves for us? And I would study and study and study. And so I would make sure that at every single table that I would create this experience. I would really they wouldn't even want wine. And I said, can I recommend wine tonight? They're like, yeah, I never know what I want. So I'm like, well, let me find a perfect glass for you. Tell me if you could dream up a perfect one, what would it be? And out of the 300 that we'd have on the list, I knew which one it was because I studied it and I got it. And they're like, give me 3 bottles. I want to take some home. This is so good. And, so I did that again and again. And I started walking away with about 20% more, tips than everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I say I got lucky, but we know that's not true. It's not a coincidence. One day I had a table come in and they knew their shit. They knew the wine list and they asked a lot of questions, but it's almost like we were playing a game. Like they were feeling me out and, but I kept up and I enjoyed it. And I just myself, and if I didn't know something, I'd be like, you know what, I'm going to go find out for you. Like, I'm here for you. Later on at the end of that experience, they left their card for me and they said, we want you to come and apply to be with us. And I said, I figured out who it was. They were the executives for the largest distributor in the world for wine and spirits. And they said, we have a position that we really think you'd be great for. Well, unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize it was probably the very next day that I found out I was having a baby. So I was dating.
This is inconvenient.
I was dating my bartender at the time. He's really cute. We're kind of boyfriend girlfriend. It was very casual for like first time I ever did something like this. But of course, find out I was having a baby and we decided that we're going to get married. And turns out we really like each other. 11 years later, we're still married, we're best friends. But I was like, oh, wow, this is not going to be easy serving tables with a big belly on my feet and still in school. Maybe I should apply for this big girl position to prep for this and do it while my belly's still small. Right. So I went for it. And who knew that it would take 13 interviews? I had no idea. I didn't even know what I was applying for, but I knew I had to meet this person and that person and that person and that person. And 13 interviews later, Excel spreadsheet exams and tests and things, I landed the position where I was the youngest in the world and one of 4 women to be the representative of the largest supplier. So this was kind of crazy. I was basically liaison. So I worked for the distributor, but I represented the supplier. And so I'm constantly in between 2 people who are fighting, because the supplier says, sell more of my product, sell more of my product. The distributor says, we can't, we're doing our best. Like, what can we do? And, they're constantly fighting over numbers, and I'm making them get along and agree on the number. And then it's handed to me to go and manage the sales team. So I'm responsible for forecasting, budgeting, and absolutely hitting goals. I have to come up with the tools for my team. I have to come up with the programs. I have to make sure that they understand how to sell the products. I'm teaching them how to use them, mix them. I'm going and building relationships with every single bar, restaurant, liquor store, casino, like in the Northeast region. I'm not going to lie, Christina, I went home almost every single night and cried. I was 22 at the time. That's how long it took, a long time to even get into this position. And most of the people that I had to manage had children my age, right? Well, I was a server and I got this position. Like, I don't even know how I was qualified, but they saw something in me, and I stood up. I did it. No one knew, but it was definitely a challenge, but I was up for the challenge. And I'm really proud to say that the 2 years that I was with that company, my team was #1 in the nation for our sales. I had the honor of meeting like some of the biggest names in the industry, having dinner with them at their tables. I was traveling here and there, Las Vegas, then to Miami, and then I was going to New York, and it was just like so good. Now that's a really cool industry. I love the art and history, especially of bourbon. I love wine. I'm a certified sommelier through the Court of Masters. But there's also a dark side to that industry too.
Yes, there is.
There's alcoholism. When people are drinking, they're not in their right mind. There's a lot of adultery, especially with all these vacations and trips and things. Like, it was just not the vibe. And to be honest, I never saw my son. It sucks, because when are people drinking most? Nights, weekends, holidays, right? So I was like, this was sexy and cool in the beginning, but at the same time, this is kind of dumb, because I'm on salary. Like, what is this bullshit? Because I'm teaching all of them how to make sales, and the salespeople are making commissions. They're winning trips. I want a Yeti cooler. Like, what the heck?
Like, wait a second.
So I want the Yeti cooler.
Can I, before we go in, there's just a couple of things that I want to point out because they're so important. So there's like 3 things in the story that you just told.
Yeah, let's go back and forth.
Okay. So the first one was that you went in and you volunteered a restaurant. Like, you went in and basically volunteered and said, I will create my own position. I just want you to know, I've also just gone in at my first bartending job. I got on a hope and a prayer, and I wung it, and I worked for tips. And then I worked my way up, and like that cash money, you cannot beat that. And that's what I even recommend to people now. Go find a mentor and volunteer to work for them for a month. So you'll do whatever you want, or work for them for 90 days. If you want a job, and be the best you can be and learn as much as you can, and you might have a job at the end of it. Right. Yeah. Most people won't do that, but it's the fastest way to figure things out. And then the other thing that you said, you had no idea that studying this wine and, being in the industry, of course, you study cocktails and wines and food and all this kind of stuff. But you like really realized, okay, the biggest checks here and the biggest money to be made here is here. I'm going to study it and know it so well that that's where I'm going to focus on. Like, in hair, I did weddings because I knew I could make so much money doing weddings. So same thing. I found a way to make more money specializing in something. But isn't it cool that everything that you do prepares you for what's next, even if you don't know what's coming? Like, that's what people need to understand right now, is that every little thing you do right now to get better at something, it's never wasted time. All of a sudden it comes full circle and you're like, oh, that's why I did that. Right. Always. And my husband also, I married the bartender, right? Married the bartender and had the same, like, I was like, this is the guy. But what we both did is we left that industry before we were ready. So you have to do things before you're ready, before it feels good, before you're like, yeah, the time's now. Like, there's never a good time to get a new job. There's never a good time to up level your skill set. There's never a good time to go back to school or hire a mentor or take a course. Like, life is busy, but you have to do it before you're ready. So sorry, I just wanted to like point out those things because they're so key in this process. And you're right. You get through all that, you make all this money and you're like, okay, but like, all my friends are alcoholics. There's like a lot of like not long-term relationships. People don't value their families as much as they should in this industry, right? People get involved in drugs. They spend their money on things that they shouldn't, right? And so what happened when I mean, you're probably 24, 23 when you realized that, right?
Yeah.
I was the same age, by the way. And so like, what happened? How did you say, like, because those are the golden handcuffs, my friend, like having that kind of cash money come in, you know?
I think for me too, I think the hardest part was my mom was so proud of me. Like that was the thing, like screw the golden handcuffs. Like I didn't want to disappoint my mom. Like she was so proud of me because my mom, the kind of the money story that I have in my life is, you know, my mom worked 3 jobs when I was little, and she, you know, was a bank teller, and she really just studied and studied. She went to the very top. She became vice president of the 3rd largest financial firm in the world. And it was in 2008 that she, you know, lost her job. She came in one day after being there for 16 years and they said, you're out. And I just remember being like, wow, like that was taken away from her. And so I think vicariously she kind of lived through me and me climbing that corporate ladder and, you know, being so young. And I was really proud of that. And I was making like probably double the amount of money most of my friends were, but I'm telling you, it's still not very much. Right? Like, so this is what happened, to be honest. I remember thinking like, okay, this is what I went to school for. This is what I worked for. And like, let me just look around for a second. They are having an affair, these two. That person is definitely drinking at work. And then this person, the person that's my mentor, I love her. I'm still so close to her. But I think about, she's 5 positions from me, and that's where I would go. And I don't know how much money she's making, and I still don't know, but I would guess probably around $150,000, right? Like that's probably where she was. And what I know about her, and I can't say I know for sure, but we can kind of think there's something stems from this. She's had 2 heart attacks and a divorce. You know what it's like getting numbers in? Do you know what it's like making it work? Like it can be extremely stressful when it's not just your job on the line when you're a manager, it's your whole team underneath you. And that's a lot of weight to carry. And I remember just thinking, this isn't what I signed up for. This is not what I want. And again, I'm not seeing my baby. So I remember that's right when I first kind of discovered metaphysics. Now, I do believe, you know, I read The Secret, and I do think like, okay, that's like the first elementary thing. I do believe my husband, my bartender, just like yours, I attracted him. Like, how did you decide after 3 months? I kind of like knew he was going to be him anyway. And the baby was like making it happen. Right. I was like, yes, I'm kind of happy this is going on because I want him. So then though, I really started exploring that a little bit more, especially when I wasn't feeling good. And I remember I read the book on life visioning by Michael Bernard Beckwith. And he talks a lot about writing the script, being the director of your life, and like really writing that out. And so I said, what would I want? And I swear this is exactly what I said. I would be obsessed with finding someone who is a mentor, who's very wealthy, who can teach us step by step what they did. And I wanted to be somewhere hot and tropical and warm, because I had lived in Florida and I was so cold. I lived in Delaware and I was so cold all the time. And all of a sudden I'm sitting in my office, my phone rings, and this is the week I'm reading the book. And my husband says, babe, here, just hear me out before you say anything. But I like to move our family to Florida. I have a friend who was in college and he started real estate investing, and he's a multimillionaire. And guess what? He did so well. All of his friends and family are like, how did you do this? Can we invest in you and do it again? And he wants us to be the apprentice. Like, we can learn everything. And I was like, what? And he's like, and it's in Florida. It's in Florida. And I was like, oh my God, like I legit, we manifest the car. Yeah, we manifest everything. We manifest everything. But I was like,
we do. Yes, we do.
Right. But this is like out of a catalog. And I was like, oh my God, yeah. And he's like, really? I was like, done. And it's almost like, but of course, like, it's like he gave me the gift that I was asking for. So I didn't question it. I promise you right then and there, I just put down the phone. I walked into my boss's office. I said, I'm done. I'm out. Like, I just don't see this going to where I want it to be. And I decided literally in 2 weeks we moved, and it was the hardest thing. And I think the hardest part was telling my family. They weren't very happy about it. And it wasn't so much about me. It's that I was taking the grandbaby. And it was hard. I don't think I talked to my family for a full year.
We went through the exact same thing. I know exactly what you're talking about, because we went through the exact same thing coming to Mexico with Izzy.
I know I had to, though. I just had to.
I know.
And so we came down here, and this shit was nothing like the TV shows, y'all. It was nothing glam about it at all. We were buying the worst houses in the worst neighborhood. I'm not kidding. I saw dead bodies. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, there was pools of blood. There was needles in every house. There was rats and snakes. And I have, now, believe it or not, I'm having my second baby. Okay. So I have this big belly, and you're supposed to buy houses on auction and stuff, sight unseen. Never. I'm the one breaking into them to make sure we can assess them, see how much it's going to cost, like all this. It was so crazy, the things that I witnessed. It was not, the Naples and beautiful places that I thought it would be.
Right.
But within 1 year, my husband and I, we not only helped to purchase, but we acquired, we renovated, and then we also managed the entire portfolio of 300 houses. So in 1 year, we were able to do that. So we were buying them, like we were doing auctions, we were going, seeing them, like all these different things. We learned a ton. But then I found news out that my dad had passed away. And even though he was sick, I thought I had a lot of time with him. And so him dying really changed my perspective of life, about time. And I look at time as our most important asset now, especially because I thought I had a lot more time. I did good. I almost always break down to that part. I can't help it. I'm such a daddy.
I understand.
Yeah. And it's been a while now, but so naturally I wanted to move back north. I wanted to be there for my mom. I wanted to bring the kids back to her. I also just was kind of tired of all this work we were doing here. And, I talked to my husband, he said, babe, absolutely. Like, this is a life-changing thing that just happened. And honestly, I'm at the point where I think we can do this for ourselves. So we went back and, we were going to do it. We're going to do it ourselves. We're going to find, these deals in Delaware, and we're going to make it happen. And here's the thing. I know this to be true. It's fun. I think we both have the mutual friend, Jessica Higdens, and she has a beautiful story about how a big risk of hers led to a big reward. And I loved hearing this story because we spoke together at Nashville. And I said my story, and I said, sometimes, like Jessica, big risks do lead to big rewards, or sometimes they lead to traumatic failures.
Right.
And that was me, because we were going, it's one thing, and I've learned this, it's one thing to do something for someone else. And then when it's your own, it's completely different. Doing things based off theory versus actually like doing it yourself is completely different. But my husband and I, and to be honest, I am not upset at all, nor I ever will be. I think it's so ballsy what he did. I'm so proud of him for the courage he had. And I know his intention was to take care of our family, but we did a real estate deal that just like completely fucked up. Like, it was bad. Like, we lost everything, financially speaking. And, we're both college educated. He has a master's. I had this big corporate career before that. We just busted our ass and we thought we knew everything. And the first time we did it, we lost it all. And it was so bad. We had 2 kids. We had $200 together. And honestly, I say that to feel better. It was his money. It was in his wallet. We had to do food stamps. We had to get support because I thought I'd be able to find a job easily. And it wasn't. Like, it's like, we just lost everything overnight, and that will really do something to you. And
it's a humbling experience as well.
Yeah. And honestly, everybody that you know that's really successful, I think, goes through something like that. And every single one of them will also tell you it's like the best thing that ever happened to them. Because when we talk about inner feminine beast, that's the name of my brand, but really it's the name of my higher self. And all of us have an inner feminine beast. It's the version of you that really has the courage, the power, the strength, and the clarity to get it done and to see it through. And I realized in that moment, after grieving and being angry and pointing at the fingers at everybody for a long time, I took a second to self-reflect. And I realized there's a story that I have. It's that I always thought that something outside of me would be the source of my success or the source of my happiness. I thought that this corporate job and landing that so young would be like the thing that made me so happy, and it didn't. And then I really thought that learning all these tips and tricks from somebody else was going to like make it happen. And like, we were just going to be handed it, and like it didn't. And then I thought my husband taking care of this for us was going to like win and make us fortunes, and it didn't. And I'm not mad at him again, but like, I was starting to like self-reflect and be like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I constantly like thinking that somebody's going to do this for me? And in that moment, that is when I discovered my inner feminine beast. And I went back with all the courage I could. And I went to my old boss and I said, I need to be taken back. And she's like, oh my gosh, yes, you're going to be in management. That's fabulous. And I said, no, I'm not doing management. I want to be a salesperson. And she was like, what? I said, I love commission because it's uncapped potential. I want to work for it and I can sell more than anybody. Just let me know. I'm training the salespeople. Plus, it's not nights and weekends. People don't want to see the salespeople when they're most busy with their clients, right? The customers. And She goes, yeah, one issue, Cynthia, we're not hiring salespeople. There's literally no position. So I did it again. I went and I sold myself into a position that didn't exist. I said, look, let's come up with one. I got it. Why don't you give me all the worst accounts that nobody wants? And literally they created this thing called D accounts. Okay. The D accounts are literally the bars that you go into that feels like a time warp. Like it smells like old mildewy
Yeah.
and people smoke on the inside. And you go at 11 a.m. and there's that guy, Tom, who's sitting there and he's drinking a PBR and a shot of Jägermeister, right? Like hand in hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So those were all my accounts. I would walk in like this with my blonde hair and my sparkly outfits. And honestly, that was one of the best things that happened to me because I really learned what it means to sell because I listened to them. And these are accounts that nobody even would go to. So they didn't know what it's like to be listened to. And I taught them what business was. It's not just selling stuff. It's like creating value and understanding how to make money and margins and how to like create things that your clients like even more and how to look at your competition and be better and like all these things. And so I put love and time and built really solid relationships with these people to the point where, yeah, guess what? My clientele, my people, they drink Jägermeister. So guess who was number one in the nation for selling Jägermeister? Me, right? Like,
because you knew your clientele, you knew your
girl
people
right here. So more Malibu than the busy beach bars. Like I made it happen. Irish whiskey all day. Like I got that. And so I did. I rose number one in sales for these D accounts. And eventually it's really cool. So what happens is when you build solid relationships, you build a pipeline. You always know where your next sale is or how to make a phone call. Hey, can you buy 13 cases of this expensive bourbon? Well, that doesn't make sense, but I know you'll help me sell it. And you've hooked me up so many times. Yeah, sure. So I was able to like not work that much, to be honest, maybe 2 hours a day. And so I still had that feeling I usually get. I could be doing more. Like I can create more impact. And at the same time, I now have 2 babies and we still have so much debt and like, I need to make more money. So I had this wonderful idea, Christina. I was like, oh, I'll start my own company because that'll be easy, right? Like I'll just start my own company.
so easy.
So easy. So I kind of thought about this for a second. I was like, I know quite a few things about sales. I'm sure I can figure it out. But to be honest, I just went through a lot of trauma and I don't know if I'm in the right mindset to take on something this big. So believe it or not, the very first thing I did was I hired a mindset coach. And I didn't want any mindset coach. She was $1,500 a month. I remember that. And I remember being like, whoa, this is a lot. This is more than my mortgage at the time. And so I worked with this woman and she was really great. But I remember I would drive to go meet her. And every single time I walked in the morning, there would be another woman walking out and we both have no makeup on and we both would just kind of wave to each other. All of a sudden, my mindset coach was like, oh, she's like, oh my God, Cynthia, I totally know what to do. And I said, what? She goes, that woman who's my client, she's a business coach and you want to start your business. And I work with both of you. And I can tell you, your energies are like fire. And I was like, okay. So I went to this woman and she had a little meetup in the little like rental spaces and she would teach a little something and then she would have like water and like crackers and cheese for people and like we would just say hi. And I went to her and I found out too that she was like a previous NFL cheerleader for my football team. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with this woman. She's so hot. She's so beautiful. She's so well spoken and she can sell. Oh, I love that about her. And she's a mom. What? Like girl crush. I asked her, I said, I want to work with you as my coach. She said, okay, great. It's $450 a month. And I was like, okay. So I went, I signed up and I went all in. That's how I do everything. When you decide, like you said, I really focus. I'm very intentional. I didn't dip my toe, I cannonballed. And so she had a competition amongst her clients. And to be honest, I actually didn't win. And I was pissed because first place, she was giving away a laptop and I was going to start a company. And I literally was working on a dinosaur. And I was like, man, I really needed that laptop. Well, so funny because the laptop comes back in later. But instead, she reached out to me and I thought it was the nicest thing. So appreciative. She goes, hey, I know you got second and you literally came in this close. I want to thank you and I want to get back to you. How do you feel if I gave you a VIP day? I heard you're local. I think we have the same mindset coach. And I was like, Yeah. Wait, a $2,000 like, laptop, or like, I think at the time it was like $10,000 for her VIP day. I was like,
Yeah.
win. So I went, and of course I was super serious, and I'm a nerd. I think it's comes along with being a salesperson. When you're a salesperson, you need to always know where your next sale is. So it's really about organization. I always say that the universe loves speed. Speed comes from clarity. Clarity comes from organization. So I came as the little nerd that I am, and I sat down and I handed her a binder, and I had my binder. And I said, okay, we're going to turn to Orange Tab, Section 2, Bullet 3. This is my 12-month program, my 6-month option. This is where I want to be in 5 years. This is my perfect avatar. This is like my branding. This is what, and she was just like, what the fuck? She's like, hold on. She's like, how long have you been in my program? And I was like, a month. She was like, what? She's like, this is amazing. She's like, well, who are you? What do you do? And I was like, oh, I've always been in sales. I've been a sales manager. I used to be the regional manager for this. I manage this team. I'm doing this now. Oh my God, I got it. And she's like, what? I was like, I get why I'm here. Like, nothing's a coincidence. Like, I know I'm supposed to be your salesperson. And she was like, no, 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 no. She's like, definitely not. And I was like, well, why? She's like, you're a client, so that's weird, right? 2, it's not in the budget. I just work with interns right now. Like, we're really new. I mean, we're doing well, but like, not for a while. Maybe I can give you a call. And I said, look, time. I know what to do here. Time to sell myself into a position that is not available again. I can do this. Yep. I said, look, what if I did this for commission? What if I literally did it for like nothing? And I help you make sales. I can sell. I can make sales for you. I said, but here's the thing. If I'm going to sell for you, I want to be your right hand. Like, I want to be the fly on the wall. I'm a very, very intuitive woman. That's something I left out. I've literally gone to the College of Metaphysical Studies. I meditate all the time. And I believe it has a lot to do with sales. It's emotional connection. It's energetics. It's helping people to get to the end result. I can look at a room of 1,000 women, and I can pick the 5 women that I know are meant to be my client. I feel we have like a sacred contract together. I can feel them in my heart. And so I felt her, and I knew where she was going to be, and I wanted to be part of it. So I said, can we just make that agreement? And she said, yeah. She's like, wait, basically for free, I can get you, you're going to sell. And all you have to do is just listen to what I'm deciding. I'm like, yes, I just want to pick your brain all the time. She's like, all right. My first month, I had no idea what a DM even was. I think I had one DM sent to a friend asking them to go to the bar, and I figured it out. So what I knew with intuition, what I knew with selling, I put them together. And I honestly believe I was one of the pioneers when it comes to social selling. And in my very first month, I did $670,000 in sales. And again, this is a product that at the time was $450. So we were doing pretty good, and we were excited. She was like, holy shit, what did we do? Right. And it was so fun. And I was making commissions. Oh my God. I remember it was 2:00 in the morning. I ran and I jumped on top of my husband. I was jumping on the bed. I was crying. And he's like, what? I said, babe, I just made our family $45,000 in commissions. And I was, I remember that moment. I was crying. I was just so excited. I was like, I did it. We're on to something. And the funny part is, when I became an employee, I told her, I have an issue. I don't have a laptop. So I got the laptop anyway. She got it for me. And I was like, hey. So I ended up getting it. That's the funny part. Because I was so pissed when I didn't. I was like, no, don't react. It's coming. I can feel it. So so we all of a sudden, we're making a lot of money, and now it's time to hire a team. Well, that's my expertise. I hired the sales team. I trained the sales team. I managed the sales team, and I taught them this concept of social selling, which is very much intuition mixed with intellectual, the woo with the practical. And next thing you know, we're making $1 million launches. We're having multiple $1 million launches, and we're starting to get noticed by a lot of the big players in the industry, 7, 8-figure entrepreneurs. And they're coming, they're saying, how are you making these sales? And she turns to me and goes, Cynthia, how are we making these sales? And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. She's like, yeah, you are. And I was like, don't make me. She's like, and then all of a sudden she pushes me out there. She's done that a lot, where she, something's happening behind the scenes, pushes me out on stage in front of 300 people. I have to talk. All of a sudden she asked me to start coaching. I'm like, do you understand how many clients I just got enrolled to this program? We literally have thousands of clients now, and I have to go coach in front of them on Zoom with pages and pages and pages of people. I'm now coaching the clients. I'm working with the 7, 8-figure people and having, these VIP days with them and teaching their sales teams. And it was scary as shit, but it was one of the best things ever, because it truly did give me that posture, that courage. And accidentally, I believe she created a monster, because I fell in love with it. It felt so good. And it was really fun, because every single time I was done coaching, my DMs would always be like, ding, 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 and I always thought I was in trouble, because if I'm coaching sales, I want to be representative of her brand. At the same time, I kind of have to be myself a little bit too, because that's the secret sauce is like, so guys, there's this thing called intuition. There's this thing called law of attraction. There's this thing that to attract clients, you got to be in a certain way. And like, so all these women would voice message me. And I kid you not, Christina, I don't know why, but they would always whisper. And they would say, Cynthia, I'm starting to love sales. And Cynthia, I just love how badass you are, but you're so woo-woo. I love how you're so intuitive and you mix it with the practical. And I was like, thank you. Why are you whispering? Right? Like, they will all whisper. It was like so weird. I'm like, where are you at? Like, and I realized a lot of these women are so used to the patriarchal way of doing business. They go, they do. I've been told by, many of sales managers and bosses, gun to your head, Cynthia, where's your next sale? Like, let's go, and, I realize that's not really how this works. Being a metaphysical woman, I understand masculine and feminine. My brand is feminine beast. You have to go, but you also have to reap the rewards. You have to be intentional, but you also have to know how to surrender. Discipline needs surrender. That's flow state. That's how you get in the manifestation mode. And a lot of these women didn't know that. And so that's honestly why I've been so great at sales, is that masculine and feminine, the giving and the taking and receiving. And so one day it was crazy. I remember I had five consults booked that day. And I received a phone call from some new HR girl that I haven't even met. And she told me I was fired. I honestly still don't even know what happened. And you can feel it, because it did hurt. It really hurt. I've done a lot of healing since then, but I just felt blindsided. And honestly, as a businesswoman, I could think of all the reasons why. I bet you just think of this concept. You could probably hire 10 new salespeople for the same price of the commissions I was getting. That makes sense. But I would just love that conversation. Yeah. I'd be like,
it's kind of logical.
Or I'd be like, hey, let's start a business together. Like, now I'm ready, but I always remind myself that, remember, Cynthia, you started as a client. Why? You wanted to start your own company. And when you have a desire, it doesn't go away. And you can distract yourself all you want, saying, nope, God, I'm too busy, when he sends you the feather, a little tickle. Okay, now it's time. No, I'm too busy. I'm making this really work.
I literally, when you said that, I literally had a butterfly fly right in front of me when you said that.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden the brick comes where work starts getting kind of hard and you're starting to ignore your family, but you're like, no, it's worth it. It's worth it. I'm making her dreams come true. That'll make my dreams come true. Again, something outside of me will make my success happen. Right.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, God knows you have a desire. So here comes the bus. I got fired. And I remember I was really butthurt. I went to bed crying, cussing up a storm. And then I woke up the next day and I said, no, today's the day. I'm going to do this. And it was knowing what I knew in business and sales. I got that really well. I hired help. I hired somebody to really help me to bring God into my business, because I knew I couldn't force this. This was going to be a forever thing. This was not going to be a dabble. This is going to be the thing I am meant to live my life for. Like, this is the legacy work that I'm going to do. And I wasn't going to force it or to push it. And I just knew there was a lot of past stories that weren't true about pushing in business. I didn't want my clients to feel like numbers to me. I wanted to really rewrite the patriarchal way of what I learned. And I know in business, no one ever taught me about meditating and receiving and energetics. And so I hired someone to support me in that way. And along with the energetics, because it's not just what you do, it's who you are when you do it. I also did the right strategies. I built the right structures, and I put in the right simple systems to help me to skyrocket. And within 4 months, I was able to replace my old income. I was creating a 6-figure income. And then within 6 months, multiple 6 figures. And even to this day, I still have one employee, but it was, I think, around month 8 that it started to be $70,000 cash months and higher. I did things a lot different than most people do, but I also teach a lot different than people do. And then basically it was really hard. Here's the thing. I had a non-compete. So I couldn't even teach business or sales. I started teaching intuition and helping women to be not only the CEOs of their business, but the CEOs of their life, kind of bringing femininity into their masculine ways of doing things. And I think a lot of people were interested in that, but I think a lot of people also were like, whoa, I just saw what you did with your business. So as soon as my non-compete ended, that's when everything really opened up. I'm truly doing what I love now as a sales consultant, as a business strategist. really helping women to achieve their first 6 figures and beyond, and then working with a lot of multiple 6 figures to hit 7. And then one of my favorite things to do is to work with multiple 7-figure women who have large sales teams, and going in to train their sales teams to not only have fabulous launches, but not be launch dependent and make consistent sales in between. Again, selling to me is the most spiritual thing. And it's what I live for. So it's kind of crazy. What can
this is so crazy, because so when I first started stalking you, now that
how you
comes
say
out,
that,
right?
I'm like, I'm stalking
When
you.
I first started stalking you, it was really interesting because it was all energetics, right? And because I didn't know you through other people, I just saw you online, regardless of our connections with everybody else. And so I was like, oh, she talks a lot about energetics. Now, I am somebody that believes in manifesting. I am somebody that believes in hard work. Some people that believe in manifesting believe just they call in the energy and everything works out for them the way that it is, right? And so initially I was like, this woman has an energy about her, but she's teaching manifesting. That's really interesting, right? And so I kind of just left it at that. And I didn't realize the depth of your sales knowledge or how you serve people until I got to know you through other people. And that's really interesting, because I didn't know it was the non-compete clause that put you down that path. But what you do so well is put these two things together, because you can't have one without the other. You can't have one without hard work. You can't have the manifesting without being conscious of it and blindly working, right? So you have to have both of them. And you do this so perfectly. Like, honestly, I want to give you that compliment, because there's not a lot of people out there that can create the results that they're just like looking for a quantum leap that's just going to happen for them because they've dialed into a certain frequency, or because they've forgiven their past or whatever it is, right? But it's like, no, it's strategy met with that. It's part and parcel. They work together, but you have to be willing to work for it. It's not just going to show up for you, right?
Yeah. I think, as a metaphysical woman, I am obsessed with studying universal laws, because whether you can see it or not, I promise you it's there. I always joke around, but if I have a pen and I let it go, is it going to float away? No, we all know it's going to fall. And it doesn't matter who does it. Like, if you do that all the way in Mexico, and I'm in Florida, we drop the pen, it's going to drop. It doesn't matter if you're Brad Pitt or a homeless person, if you're in Cuba or in Japan, like, it's going to happen because it's a law. It's consistent. What goes up, what comes down. But the thing is, you can't see how gravity, you can't see gravity, but you see how it affects the physical thing. So you can't see any of these universal laws, but if you're not aware of them, I promise they're working against you. So I'm really studying that. And the universal law that really stuck out to me more than any of them, not that one's better than the other, but I just like resonated, was the law of gender. And for anything to manifest in this world, there has to be both masculine and feminine. There is negative and positive in literally every proton, neutron. Like, it's what makes up our physical world. And so you have to find within you, not the balance. I don't like that word, the harmony of your masculine and your feminine. It's not being 50% masculine all the time, 50% feminine, being perfect. It's like, no, you use this when you need to, you come into this form when you need to. And it will help you to bring everything you want into the physical. And so that's why my brand is what it is, as Inner Feminine Beast. It's seeing both sides, and it's not male or female, it's masculine and feminine. And there's a whole conversation within that. But yeah,
we'll have to have another conversation for sure. We'll have to have another conversation for sure. And that's part of the reason that I called the podcast Beyond Balance, because I got so sick of people being like, I just want a balanced life. I just want to find balance. I'm like, no, you want to go beyond balance. You want to go beyond all of that and find your life and who you are and your impact. And don't think about comparing what everybody else wants. This is you. So Cynthia, thank you so much for being here with me today. Where can people find you?
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful. There's many ways, but my website is probably the one way to first go, cynthiastant.com. And honestly, I'm in all the platforms, but I'm hanging out on Facebook. You can look me up at Cynthia Stant. Send me a DM. Let me know you heard me from the show. I'll definitely say hi. I'm here. I love connecting with people. Again, it's social media. So I say hi to every DM that reaches out. So I'd love to hear from you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I look forward to having more conversations just like this, because I know that will help so many.
Yeah, of course. And you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to put it out right here, right now. I know for a fact that this is just a start for you and me. I think there's something really deep here. And I think that so many women that I trust and love, the fact that they were like, you have to meet her, you too. I feel it. I sense it. I see what they're seeing. So we're going to listen back to this years from now, and we're going to laugh about the first time we really connected, so totally. I appreciate this, but I'm really looking forward to your friendship, getting to know you better.
Thank you so much. You take care, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
If you think this video can help a friend, make sure you share it.